Yo, what up everyone? Today I got a special guide for you guys. I will show you guys the most efficient ways to kill every single boss in Hunt Showdown. This will be mostly targeted at newer players and slightly more advanced players who are getting into the game, but I'm sure even some veteran players will learn a trick or two in this video. But enough of the talking, let's jump straight into the video. The first boss we are going to talk about is the Assassin. The Assassin is arguably the most annoying boss in the game if you do not know how to deal with him. He swaps between taking full damage in his human form and barely taking any damage in his bug form, while traveling through the layer. Once he takes about 25% damage, he starts a rage phase, during which he starts creating clones of himself, which if they hit you will mark you, block your vision, and the Assassin will charge you and deal tremendous amounts of damage while also making you bleed. On top of that, he has a wall throw ability, which is dodgeable when hiding behind cover, but deals a lot of damage as well. All Assassin attacks will make you bleed. The Assassin does have a weak spot on his chest marked with a little red dot, in which he will take more damage, and you should always try to hit him when shooting him. I will show you 3 strategies to kill the Assassin most effectively. The first one is how to deal with him without anything special, no stamp shots or any kind of tool involved. In this example I found a hammer and I will hit him twice to push him into his rage phase, then drop the hammer and kill both his clones with my medkit or shooting the clones. The clones only have 1 HP, so they're quite easy to deal with, but believe me, a lot of people do struggle with it, and even a lot of veteran players I stream together with do not know how to deal with those clones, and the fights become incredibly chaotic because they get marked, stabbed, are bleeding, and it becomes a total mess. I also use my medkit because it drains the least amount of stamina with a light attack, and you only need to deal 1 damage, like I said already, to make a clone disappear. This strategy is very easy, but believe me, I played with so many players who have thousands of hours who will struggle with dealing with the clones correctly. Then you just rinse and repeat, hit him twice with a heavy attack, rage him, kill the clones 2 or 3 times, depends how often he clones himself, pick up your hammer, and do it again until eventually he is dead. The second strategy is very simple, but also incredibly faster. This strategy requires a melee weapon that can slice multiple opponents with 1 strike. For example, a combat axe, a bomb lance, or a talon variant as an example. The strategy works like this. You punch the assassin into his rage phase and then let him clone himself. Once you hear the assassin spawn his second clone, you attack him with your axe with a heavy attack and destroy both his clones in 1 strike, which will also stun lock him. Then he will immediately clone himself again, and you again wait for the bone crackling noise like you hear here, and kill both his clones with 1 strike. If you want a stamp shot or have conduit, you can just spam heavy melee attacks to maximize damage. But always make sure that you hit him when he does this bone cracking noise to get his second clone. Otherwise he will disappear into his bug form and the fight just will take significantly longer. This is by far the easiest strategy to execute, but does require some preparation. Also, you do not need conduit or stamp shot for that. This new change with the recent patch to determination, since determination will allow you to always recharge stamina fast enough after a heavy melee swing to be able to hit him again. The third strategy is my personal favorite and a little bit tricky. It requires you putting yourself on fire. People often see it on my stream and are very fascinated by it. Just like in the other 2 strategies, you push the assassin into his rage phase with anywhere you like. And then you put yourself on fire. Ideally you shoot a lantern before he enters the rage phase, so you can run into the fire once the assassin starts cloning himself. Just like with the axe strategy, you wait for him to spawn his second clone, the bone cracking noise, and then you walk into him and you burn both clones at once. That deals fire damage to the assassin but also burns both clones. Make sure to back off after doing it, because the assassin sometimes starts running if you keep standing inside of him because he wants to avoid the fire damage. Also make sure to keep holding F to stop the fire from burning your bars, but don't stop it completely, just long enough so it stops yourself from losing your bar. Let go of it, press F again, restart the process. As long as you hold F, you will not lose a health chunk. This can also be done to help your teammates who has an axe or a hammer, for example, to speed up the assassin kill significantly, since he does take a lot of damage from fire in general. On top of that, it is worth mentioning that in case of an emergency, you can burn both his clones with the help of your flare pistol, like you can see here. I wouldn't recommend it, since it's a very valuable resource, but if the assassin has to go down as fast as possible, and it is safer than putting yourself on fire, especially when you hear the enemies approaching and it's the last rage phase and you really cannot afford being on fire or losing a bar right now. Okay, the next boss we will talk about is the OG Hunt Showdown boss, the Butcher. The Butcher is probably the simplest boss in the game. He is basically a giant meathead with a lot of health and a fiery hook that he will punch you with and occasionally throw a fireball at you. Like any other boss, he will rage every 25%, which will make him run faster, take less damage and swing his hook in front of him to try and punch you. Make sure to not get hit by it, it is pretty annoying. Also, yes, you can choke bomb him, turn off his hook, but be aware it puts him into a soft rage phase, which will make him run significantly faster, still take a lot of damage, but he will most definitely punch you every time you try to attack him, and it is very hard to run away from him. Also, he is very weak to rending damage and explosives, so using a sticky bomb, explosive bundles or even an axe is more efficient than using blunt weapons. The first strategy is doing the Butcher with only 2 rage phases instead of 3. We are basically skipping one. The strategy for that works like this. We are taking a melee weapon, like a hammer or an axe. We will hit him once with a light attack, followed by 2 heavy attacks. You can also start with a heavy attack, but it is important to perform a light attack before the second heavy melee attack. The reason for that is that a light and a heavy hit will damage the Butcher for around 22% of his health, which is slightly below his rage phase trigger at 25%. And the final heavy attack will then push him into the rage phase, but will deal enough damage to roughly take 35 to 34% of his total health away before he starts raging, which will end up with him raging at 34% and roughly at 68% and then dying in the third cycle. Sometimes you will need to shoot him for the very last 2-3%, but this will definitely skip one rage phase, which will speed up your Butcher kill. We are basically cheesing one rage phase out of him by using mass. It is very easy to do, but most people do not know this little trick. Also, it is worth mentioning that you always want to back off after attacking him twice, since he will do a swipe in front of him every single time. The second strategy is highlighting a tool, and it is the Penny Derringer. Deals a lot of damage to bosses and AI in general, and is overall a tool I highly recommend using. But this strategy is pretty simple. You walk up to him, punch the Butcher once to stagger him so he doesn't punch you, then you shoot him twice to take about 25 to 30% of his health away. This depends basically just on the RNG of the Penny Derringer. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. You can do this twice before your Derringer is empty, and if there is one special ammo box, the purple boxes, in the compound, it will fully refill your Derringer, and you can kill him all by yourself by using your Penny Derringer. If one of your teammates also is running a Penny Derringer, it becomes even easier and you guys never have to worry about finding a melee weapon to kill the butcher or most bosses in general. This strategy basically works for every boss. Also, obviously, sticky bombs or big dynamite bundles work amazing. The third boss we are talking about is the menace of Hunt Showdown, the Spider. She is probably the most annoying boss in Hunt, while also being one of the easiest to kill. The Spider will spit poison at you, tries to pounce you, and her bites overall deal poison damage. She takes a lot of damage from fire damage, and she also rages every 25%, which makes her take significantly less damage and become incredibly hostile and chase you through the boss lair. The first strategy is just like on the butcher. We are trying to sheath one rage phase by doing one light attack before doing the second heavy attack when using a melee weapon, which allows you to skip one rage phase and significantly increases the speed of you killing the boss. Which is quite nice, since the spider kill, if you are unlucky, can take up to 2 to 3 minutes. The second strategy is a one-tap strategy. The fastest way to kill the spider basically, and it involves using a sticky bomb. Overall this is a good strategy against every boss, since it will deal more damage, but on the spider it works the best and will one-tap him. You enter the lair, ideally by yourself, so the spider doesn't aggro on one of your teammates, wait for the spider to walk towards you and scream at you. On the initial scream, which is scripted and takes the longest, you throw the sticky bomb at her and then shoot her 2 to 3 times to push her closer to the 25% threshold, while she is running away. This will instantly one-shot her once the sticky bomb explodes and provides you with a super fast and clean spider kill. In case you do miss the initial scream because she's hiding behind a wall or she aggros on you instantly as soon as you open the door, I highly recommend pushing her into one rage phase and throw your sticky bomb at her while she's running or biting at you. This will prevent you from wasting your sticky bomb because the spider runs away before you're able to throw it. The third strategy is abusing her weakness, which is fire damage. Fire ammo on any weapon deals a lot of damage to her, like you can see here. And as long as you don't care about being loud, this ammo will kill her incredibly fast. The last boss before we jump into the wild targets is Scrapbeak. Scrapbeak is the latest boss and is a hoarder. He will have all the loot that usually spawns inside the boss compound, like medkits, ammo boxes, melee tools or anything else inside his bag. He does drop some of the loot at every 25%, aka every time he enters a rage phase, and also drops the melee weapon he is holding in his hand. He also does throw concertina, and on top of that will punch you with the melee weapon that he picked up out of the compound. If he takes damage during his rage phase, he will drop concertina wire on the floor, which will slow you down and if you aren't careful, could end up with you dying by not being able to run away from him. Also, it is quite annoying to clear all the concertina after killing Scrapbeak, so overall I would highly recommend avoiding shooting, stabbing or damaging him at all when he's raging. Also be careful, he will sprint at you and he is constantly swinging his melee weapon when raging. Don't get cornered. A lot of hunters have died to him, me included, because we didn't pay attention, suddenly we were in a corner and Scrapbeak just kept swinging and we're dead. My favorite strategy to kill Scrapbeak is shooting him with a penny derringer, since 2 shots push him into a rage phase, and will most likely reward you with him dropping an ammo box, which gives you a free refill for your penny derringer, and considering you can rage him twice before your derringer is empty, 3 times if you're frontiersman, you will very likely get at least 1 ammo box to loot, which will fully refill your penny derringer. Just like with the butcher, make sure to punch him once before shooting to stagger Scrapbeak so you don't get punched in the face, and then Scrapbeak is very easy to deal with. Also, Scrapbeak does take extra damage from piercing damage, aka knives, the spear, pitchforks, the knuckle knife, anything with like a stabby end. So in case he spawns with a pitchfork in his hand, it is worth picking it up and continue the fight by stabbing him with it, or if you happen to bring a spear. it works just the same. He is very simple, but if you screw up you can 100% die to Scrapbeak. Also on a side note, he does do a screech every time he rages, which will deafen you and make it impossible to hear anybody approaching the lair. So make sure that if you play in a team, you always have one of your teammates outside the lair scouting for opponents pushing you while doing the boss. He is very loud, and if anybody is in the rough proximity, they will hear you doing the boss and will probably try to push you. Also, as a strategy that only works with friends, if 2 or 3 players stab him with their melee tools like knives or the knuckle knife for example, you can kill him very rapidly and push him into a rage phase. It is not ideal, but sometimes you have to make the best out of the situation you are given, and for example if he is holding a pitchfork in his hands, maybe it's the best idea if you and your friends just stab him, make him rage, drop the pitchfork, then you pick up the pitchfork and your teammates guard the lair while you finish Scrapbeak all by yourself. A spear deals as much damage to Scrapbeak as a pitchfork, so if you really care about killing, always be prepared to kill Scrapbeak. Maybe running a spear is not the worst idea. On top of that, all bosses take a lot of damage from throwing tools, like you can see here. Especially spears and axes are incredibly effective to kill bosses. And if you care about killing bosses fast and quietly, I would highly recommend trying to work a spear, throwing axes or throwing knives into your loadout. Okay, now we go into the wild targets. Wild targets in Hunt, unlike normal bounty targets, drop 1 bounty token, they instantly banish, and they always provide a burn or scar straight once you have defeated them. So I highly recommend going for them when they are in a match. The first one is Rotjaw, which is a crocodile boss. You can find her by investigating Rotjaw traces and following the direction of the smoke that comes out of the Rotjaw trace until eventually it will lead you to Rotjaw herself. She has 2 attacks, a normal bite and a pummel or charge, which both can be dodged the very same way. You wait for her to attack you, starting to surface, and then dodge her attack in a forward motion at a 45-degree angle, like you can see here. Then you turn around and then either punch her or shoot her. The normal surfacing noise is her bite attack, which hurts but is nothing too serious and you don't really have to worry about it. But anytime you hear the bubbles, you want to be on high alert, since it deals a lot of damage and slams you to the ground, and shortly after she will attack again, which could be your downfall. I guarantee you, even players like me or Rotjaw for example, died to Rotjaw the very first time we tried to kill her. She is an absolute menace if you're not prepared for her charge attack. I personally recommend fighting her close to the shoreline, since when caught in deep waters she can be incredibly hard to fight. This can be negated by using gator legs, but fighting at the shoreline is free and more effective, and you can save yourself in case you do need to heal in the middle of the fight. Also, unlike other bosses, she has 1 rage phase at 50%. She will slow off her armor and drop a bunch of electric shock fields on the ground, which completely drains your stamina and slow you down significantly. I would leave the water until all of them have respawned, which only takes a couple of seconds, since it is impossible to dodge her attacks when being slowed by her shock fields. She will also drop a shock field every time she goes back underwater after her rage phase, so be careful when fighting her. The last boss in this guide is Hellborn. You can find him by listening to his screams when being in Darkside. Hellborn only spawns on Mammoth's Gouge, like Rotjaw only spawns on Stillwater and Lawson Delta. Hellborn is the latest addition to Hunt Showdown and is a tricky opponent. He is the glass cannon under the Hunt Showdown bosses. He doesn't have a rage phase, he shoots firebolts at you when you fight him from range, which put you on fire, deal a lot of damage and scorch your bars immediately. And when close to him, he explodes, which torches anyone around him, plus shoots a barrage of random fire projectiles into the air, which also burn everything on impact. There are two ways to fight Hellborn. Either you dodge his fireballs and fight him from range while shooting him, like you can see here, until you eventually win, but this will also take a lot of time. Or you throw as much damage at him as you can in a short amount of time with your entire team. The strategy is fast, but I would not recommend doing it as a solo, since you will quite likely be close to being Red Skulled or Red Skull if you are unlucky. Also, it is worth mentioning that throwing a choke bomb will damage him, but even more importantly, if he hits you with his fire attacks, you can run into the choke bomb like you can see here, put yourself out of fire and continue fighting him without having to worry about burning. So you kinda can create a little safe bubble for you and your teammates. My personal favorite is rushing him with my teammates. We all use penny derringers and basically instantly kill him within a couple of seconds, because like I said, he doesn't have a rage phase and takes a lot of damage. This was it for the video. I hope some of these tips were very helpful to you. I know a lot of people have been asking for a guide how to kill all the bosses for a long time, so here it is. But anyways, I will talk to you guys next time.